Yeah, I'm 10, 12 years in. I got 4 MVPs and 4 championships. Like, but do I still want to do this? You know what I'm saying?
You know how hard it is.
Some people say, I want to go play baseball.
8 months after taking a jab at MJ on LeBron's show, KD is back and he's refusing to budge.
Standing 10 toes down. In his latest Ringer interview, he takes another shot at MJ. Now, a leaked phone conversation seems to suggest this isn't random, but a coordinated push to elevate LeBron's legacy. Let's break it down. The
statement that set the internet on fire. March 17th, 2026.
Michael Lee for The Ringer for one of the most anticipated interviews of the
Now 37 and balling for the Houston Rockets, KD is narrowing the gap on Michael Jordan's career mark of 32,292 points. He's already moved past Wilt Chamberlain on the charts. Dirk Nowitzki is in his rearview too. He's just days away from a historic career milestone. So when Lee brings up the Jordan situation,
MJ, about the controversy, about the comments, about whether he regrets any of it, KD does not blink. He's the standard. He's the blueprint of this whole thing. That is where he starts. And then he says something that surprises almost everyone. He doubles down. He stands by every single word he said back in July 2025 on LeBron's podcast. No apology. No clarification, just KD, unfiltered, refusing to let the noise change what he believes is simply the truth. To understand why those words still carry so much heat, why the basketball world is still divided over what he said nearly a year later, you have to go back to where all of this started. It started, like most NBA controversies do, with a microphone on and the truth coming out sideways. July 2025. LeBron James and Steve Nash are sitting down with Kevin Durant for part 2 of their Mind the Game podcast. The episode is called What Happened in Brooklyn, but Brooklyn is almost beside the point. What happens in this conversation is something that NBA fans are still talking about nearly a year later, and what makes it so combustible is that nobody expected it. KD is not a man.
KD doesn't have anything left to prove. So when he goes on Bron's platform and shakes the basketball world, it isn't some accidental slip of the tongue.
Lips. It is because he means it. Here is what happens. KD is deep into a conversation about commitment, about what it takes to stay locked in to the
He was breaking down the psychological warfare of the league.
Side of the game, the sacrifices, the recommitment, the mental contract you have to sign with yourself over and over again throughout your career.
You got to recommit and sign that contract with yourself every so often.
He is building towards something, and then he gets there.
Yeah, I'm 10, 12 years in. I got 4 MVPs and 4 championships. Like, but do I still want to do this?
KD is illustrating the internal struggle of a superstar. He's describing that wall every legend hits, that crossroad where you have to decide if you still want it. And then he drops the line that turned the room into a furnace. Some guys just say, I think I'll go play baseball instead. Exactly. Then I'm planning on making a comeback. There's a split-second silence right before LeBron starts cracking up. Look, some guys boast about grinding 22 years straight. Catch my drift? That's the long and short of it right there. A tiny 8-second clip throws the league into chaos without even uttering MJ's name. No names required. The baseball comment is a blatant shot at MJ's 1993 exit following his father's passing. The late James Jordan. He joined the minors to fulfill his dad's wish after that tragedy. That 22-year streak comment is just as pointed. You've got LeBron right there, soaking up praise for his endless durability. No hiatuses, and definitely no switching jerseys for the ball field. Both LeBron and Nash are laughing while KD just keeps rambling like it's everyday talk. To grasp why this sparked such a massive firestorm, you need to feel the heavy trauma KD is glossing over. Back in July 1993, Mike's father was tragically gunned down during a heist. Jordan had literally just secured his 3rd consecutive ring. The man was the undisputed king of the league, yet he chose to leave it all behind. He wasn't tired of the game or mentally drained. It was about a grieving son honoring his dad's memory through their shared love for baseball. He made his return in March 1995, eventually snatching another 3 championships, completing yet another legendary three-peat. So, by framing that entire tragedy as just a personal preference, like it was just some casual sabbatical to clear his head, with LeBron smirking beside him, the MJ fanbase took it very personally. It sounds like 2 superstars trivializing an iconic and agonizing era of Jordan's life into a joke about staying focused. That snippet blew up instantly. Twitter and IG caught fire, while Reddit was flooded with fans calling the move classless. The optics here are especially bad for KD. He's appearing as a guest on LeBron's own media turf. To the viewers, it looked scripted, LeBron lobbing the ball and KD slamming it home. As if that baseball jab was the main course they'd planned all along. A major influencer tracking the drama didn't hold back at the time. The sight of LeBron and Nash cracking jokes, without anyone providing context, made the whole scene feel scripted. It felt like a calculated play to twist the narrative around MJ's career, just to give LeBron's resume an extra boost. Now, KD's stance on Jordan has actually been pretty steady over time. He's hailed MJ as the greatest since at least 2020, famously shutting down a LeBron supporter on social media. That's wild. No one tops Michael Jordan in basketball history. He isn't some closet LeBron fan. He's repeatedly stated that Jordan is the ultimate gold standard. During a 2022 recording of his podcast, following the NBA's big 75th anniversary gala, KD explained it this way. Each guy is unique, occupying their own lane of basketball royalty. When you get all those legends together, you start to wonder why we're so obsessed with comparing them. Social media, however, has a nasty habit of stripping away nuance. Viral snippets and mocking quips are what truly spread. Before 24 hours pass, Durant becomes the center of the hoops universe for all the wrong reasons. Refusing to bite his tongue as the criticism mounts, KD hits back on X. No regrets, no walking it back, just pure Durant energy. Jordan walked away 3 times. It is perfectly fine to mention that, man, my place is packed with $1 million in Jordans. For real. He quit thrice and remains the greatest. I will praise that the same way I celebrate 2 decades of top-tier dominance. As the resistance from others intensifies, Durant only digs in his heels. Good for those people. I will bring up those retirements every single day for life. Try and stop me. Followers see this as the genuine Durant. Raw and defiant, he rejects a mob he views as irrational and overly sensitive. Detractors see a star trapped in a web of his own making, unable to escape his own noise. This is just the beginning. The icons are speaking up and they aren't holding back. As that footage goes wide, the strongest pushback doesn't come from talking heads or current commentators. It comes from the veterans who shared the court, the ones who battled during the Jordan years, the peers who competed with him and witnessed his dominance firsthand. And they are livid. The backlash from the retired legends is swift and brutal. Voices like Stacy King and Rob Parker lead the charge before Shaq joins the fray, followed by Barkley, Garnett, and Pierce, and finally Magic Johnson. Their perspectives vary, but the underlying message remains identical. Stacy King strikes first with the most venom. A 3-time champion Bull, King stood by Jordan's side from 1988 to 1995. He has a clear stake in this fight. He was right there. He lived through Mike's journey and understands that era's true weight. Hearing LeBron and Durant chuckle about baseball during their show sparks a reaction fueled by raw, personal indignation. He instantly rebrands LeBron's podcast. It is about legacy now. What is the title? Was it Cry Me a River? Yeah, the Cry Me a River show. Unbelievable. He keeps going. Truly elite athletes never have to announce their own greatness. That is a job for the fans. Leave the arguments for the airwaves and the fan forums. King's critique hits a raw spot. The logic is straightforward. Real legends don't require a microphone to defend their status. The championships and the performance speak for themselves. When Durant and LeBron attempt to diminish Jordan while hyping their own endurance, it exposes their own deep-seated doubts. According to King, he further attacks the double standards regarding their careers, especially since KD uses his platform to lecture about dedication and surviving 20-plus years in the league. But King checks the stats, pointing out what was ignored, specifically the frequent rest days and how rarely this player actually finishes a full season schedule. Durant has managed a full 82-game season just 3 times in 2 decades, and LeBron only once in over 20 years of play. Meanwhile, Jordan suited up for all 82 games 9 times before his playoff runs. But there is more to it. Critics are hammering KD's legacy, noting he has never won a ring without Steph Curry. Every time he has been the undisputed lead superstar, Brooklyn and Phoenix both fell short. That is when Kwame Brown entered the chat. LeBron, you are acting like a total rookie. Look at him, just flashing his teeth. At least Steve Nash tried to learn. Kwame argues that Durant and James are not just being disrespectful. They are being intentionally ignorant. In his view, there is no excuse for mocking Jordan's baseball stint without mentioning the tragedy that actually caused it. Michael Jordan secured 3 championships in a row, period. He won back-to-back-to-back before his father was murdered that summer. He retired in October to play baseball because that was his father's dream. That is the sole reason he switched sports. He is not finished yet. He threw his entire soul into it because he was grieving his father. He stepped away from the game to find himself again. The most offensive part is not the mention of baseball itself. It is that both LeBron and KD are experts on the game. They know MJ. They studied him. They were influenced by his career. There is no way they did not know why he actually retired, which means that laughter was a choice, not a mistake. Charles Barkley joins in with a calmer but equally sharp perspective. Chuck frames this as a symptom of a larger problem in today's league. The load management culture and the massive sense of entitlement, the gap between those monster paychecks and actual performance on court. If you are earning $50 or $60 million every year, you cannot just play 2 out of every 3 games. Eventually, the fans will walk away. Then he targets KD specifically. He is composed and quiet, which makes the critique hit even harder. Kevin is an all-time talent, but his legacy is definitely messy. Personally, I do not respect anyone who joins a super team. Barkley is saying Durant's place in history is permanently complicated. Mocking Jordan's retirement while sitting on LeBron's podcast is a bad look. Jordan looks at this from a completely different angle. For him, this is about grit. He sees a generation of players who treat rest as a strategy and effort as an option. You play basketball 3 hours a day. That is your whole job. That is exactly what you are paid to do as a pro. He links that laziness to the ego of bragging about dedication online. What are you doing with the other 21 hours? To me, that is when you should be preparing for the next game. Jordan's take is savage. These modern stars have the softest path in athletic history. Their schedule is the lightest of any major professional league. They pull the biggest salaries and have elite recovery tech at their fingertips, yet they still demand load management days while using podcasts to spin their work ethic as something special. Magic Johnson's disappointment hits differently. It's less about rage and more about sadness. Magic blames the culture. Today's icons are all besties, business partners, and social media mutuals. I mean, the genuine competitive fire is dead. Back then, it was war. I couldn't stand Larry or any Celtic. Look, I respect you now, but back then, you were the enemy. That cutthroat instinct that defined his generation has totally vanished. And he claims that is why the product feels so hollow today. I only show love because you finally ditched that Boston jersey. Period. The Lakers and Celtics genuinely loathed one another, creating must-watch television. Magic links this lack of heat to the crashing numbers. Viewership is tanking, and Magic argues that this friendship-first vibe, where stars build brands instead of crushing rivals, is the primary culprit. Seeing KD and LeBron giggling on camera about MJ's retirement? To Magic, that's the ultimate proof that the league's soul is broken. Kevin Garnett attacks from the fitness angle. He's convinced these guys aren't tough enough for a full 82-game grind. He puts it bluntly, I don't believe these kids are in peak game shape. They think they're fit until they face an old-school dog who actually works. He argues that legends practiced at full throttle, daily 5-on-5, high contact, for hours on end. That was how you hardened your body for 82 games and a deep postseason run. Now, stars do light solo drills and wonder why they're always in the training room. Pierce agrees, noting vets played through agony that would sideline today's stars for a month. To KG and Pierce, the irony is incredibly sharp. LeBron and KD brag about their longevity like it's a badge of honor, even though they constantly sit out massive chunks of the season. The message is clear. They aren't just reacting to one viral soundbite. They're fighting against what that comment represents. A generation handed everything before they ever earned a thing, too soft for the old school grind, and now trying to gaslight history to stay relevant. KD doubles down, and that ringer sit-down flips the script. Here's the part that everyone is totally missing. People expected KD to back off his stance. With Shaq and Barkley roasting him, the world thought he'd fold, and claim his words were just taken out of context. That he actually idolizes Jordan and the baseball dig was a prank. It never happens. Not in 2025, and certainly not when March 2026. arrives and the Ringer drops a massive feature questioning KD's place in the all-time scoring ranks. As this story goes live, KD trails MJ by 68 points, nearing 32,292 total. Wilt Chamberlain is already in his rear view. Dirk Nowitzki has been eclipsed too. He is basketball's most surgical scorer, the lone player hitting 55, 40, 90 in one run. He has repeated that feat and sits days from the league's most hyped scoring milestone. Yet everyone only grills him about a 7-month-old podcast clip. He doesn't even blink. He calls Mike the gold standard, the ultimate blueprint for everything. That's how KD defends Jordan's legacy in the Ringer piece. Zero apologies. No backpedaling, just a raw declaration that Mike remains the highest peak ever reached. Then he breaks down his logic. Here's the twist. Strip away the noise, and KD isn't questioning Jordan's drive. He's arguing that raw scoring totals are deceptive without proper context. He refuses to let anyone misread the moment he finally jumps Jordan on the list. His words are surgical. Fact is, MJ stepped away from the court. Mike had seasons where he felt burnt out and needed to restart his engines. He followed through on that while LeBron just kept grinding. He never stopped. I'm only this close because Mike retired twice. He could have played until 42. Mike essentially forfeited 5 prime years. Imagine adding 300 more games at 30 points per night. That is no hyperbole. That was his literal average. Let that sink in. Durant is about to surpass Jordan, a massive tectonic shift in basketball history. But his first instinct is to tell the world the record is misleading. He admits Jordan would be unreachable had he never walked away. The gap on the leaderboard isn't a debate about who was better. It is a reflection of personal choices and timing. I am not trying to diminish his legacy when I pass him. Historians must remember that specific truth about Mike. Orbiting his greatness is cool, but MJ transcends 32,000 points. This is the KD his fans champion whenever critics claim he is being salty. This isn't a guy trying to bury a legend. This is a student of the game, ensuring the record books tell the full story beyond the raw stats, focusing on the narrative behind them. He ties it straight back to that podcast. He doesn't claim he was misquoted or that his laugh was a mistake. He owns it. It is true. 2 words. End of story. Durant won't apologize for a factual statement just because the internet got triggered. What is fascinating is the overall trajectory of how he views Jordan's shadow. It is more consistent than haters admit. Back in January 2024, speaking to the Arizona Republic, they asked why he is ignored in the GOAT debate compared to MJ and LeBron. He was blunt. Why shouldn't I be in that mix? Ask yourselves that. Why not? What is missing from my resume? He's got every right to ask. He's the lone member of the 55, 40, 90 club. 2 chips, 2 finals MVPs, a regular season MVP, 10 All-Star nods, and perhaps the most clinical scoring bag the league has ever witnessed. Strip away the team-hopping noise and focus strictly on the hardwood. KD's case for that elite tier is undeniable, but the narrative sticks, and his, for better or worse, is tied to the Golden State move, the Brooklyn exit, and the Phoenix chapter. When you're laughing on LeBron's pod while MJ's hiatus gets treated as a casual joke, you're handing your haters the perfect weapon. By November 2025, just months after that digital firestorm, KD hits up and Adams and calls MJ his ultimate interview. He's the GOAT, man. The flawless basketball prototype and a titan in business. He showed everyone how to dominate the court and maximize their brand off it. He was flawless. Flawless is the specific word KD chooses. Not just great. Flawless. This isn't a guy with a hidden vendetta against MJ. This is a student of the game breaking down history through a cold, analytical lens, seeing MJ's breaks as mere and that clinical view, shared mid-laugh on a podcast with LeBron, hits way different than it would in a formal sit-down with a reporter. Context is king, and as KD pointed out, it's exactly what historians crave. That Ringer piece didn't spark a new outrage cycle. By March 2026, the world had moved on. The legends already took their shots back in late 2025. The Ringer interview just lets KD have the final word, and he plays it smart. He hails MJ. He puts the scoring record in perspective without backing down an inch. He frames the whole drama as a truth that basketball purists should actually appreciate. Whether the old school icons who blasted him buy that is another story. King would likely still call it a Cry Me a River moment. Wami would probably claim KD knew exactly how to stir the pot. Barkley's still going to say KD doesn't belong at that table. But here's why the KD saga is deeper than the clickbait headlines suggest. He's never once denied MJ's status as the greatest. He's not putting LeBron ahead or claiming the crown for himself. For 15 years, he simply refused to let nostalgia cloud the cold, hard facts. Fact, MJ stepped away twice during his absolute peak. That's recorded history. Fact. If you give MJ 300 more games at 30 points a night, he's not just the GOAT, he's completely untouchable. Fact. LeBron has grinded for 22 plus seasons without stopping. That is nothing short of legendary. Both can be true, but nuance doesn't trend. A podcast laugh does. He played baseball soundbite does. Once it's viral, the narrative is set. Regardless of intent, Durant is 37, hunting immortality on the all-time scoring list, leading a young Rocket squad while refusing to play nice. He's about to leapfrog Michael Jordan in points. He proceeds, entirely conscious that Mike likely outruns him if their fates had been flipped. He'll voice that truth, matching his lifelong persona. No mindless tool, no industry lapdog, just a hoops genius unable to stay silent even while the public begs for his silence. Smash like, check the graphic right now. Find more.